They include a book called Anti-Racist Baby by Ibram Kendi. And there are portions of this book that I find really quite remarkable. One portion of the book says babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There is no neutrality. Another portion of the book, they recommend to babies confess when being racist. Now this...
Everyone has seen that clip by now. If you watch the media, it's made its run through. I showed that clip because I think it really showcases why school choice is not the choice. On paper, it's great. It gives parents the ability to leave behind bad school districts and go to a school district they feel will better educate their child. But I don't think that would happen in reality. It would only subsidize wealthy parents that already send their kids to private school, while middle class to low income families wouldn't be able to afford the fees to go to one anyways. And I think it would create a wider disparity against the wealthy and the poor, essentially creating the haves and the have-nots. On top of that, we would see a further divide in the ideology of this country. Would you want your tax dollars going to a school that teaches leftist values? No. Same if you're on the left, you wouldn't want to send your tax dollars going to a school that teach conservative values. We would see many of those schools popping up, and it would only create an echo chamber for their parents to feed into their kids to brainwash the next generation into thinking of what their parents thought. And I don't think that's the right idea. I think public schools should be public because it creates a great forum for kids to come up with their own ideas, to be exposed to different religions, to different viewpoints, to different races, and how we all grow up very much differently. I know that when I went to school, that was the case. I know many of you may not remember your high school or middle school days, but you learn why some people live a different way than you do. And I think there is something to be said that conservative voices are not being heard in the public schools. But that can change because we do have school board elections. Unlike private schools, don't have school board elections. So you wouldn't be able to express your voice when you go to those school meetings because the board is selected by a couple of elites. Moving to the side of religion, many of you know of Christian schools, vocational schools that people send their kids to. Now, I'm a big believer in separation of church and state, even though I am Christian, but I wouldn't want my tax dollars going to the satanic church if they made a private school. And I think many Christians wouldn't want that either. But in this country, the satanic church is recognized. So they could just do that, create private schools, and we would be paying into that. Also, you have to account for people who are Islamic or practice Hindu. I doubt they want their tax dollars going to Christian schools because at the end of the day, I think you need to put the other person's shoes on, even though people view this country as a Christian country. This country was founded for freedom of religious beliefs. So anywhere that the tax dollars go need to account for all religions and for all people. Now let's get to the data. I looked up the data between private and public schools. On average, there are outliers wherever you go, but on average, private schools do perform better, but only by a slight margin of 2 to 4% better. But the one benefit I do see with private schools is they do have smaller classroom sizes, which allows them to give your child a better one-on-one time if they are struggling in a certain area. However, where private schools lack the most is experienced teachers. They have a huge turnover rate compared to public schools. And I get why. Private schools only pay $25,000 to $33,000 a year compared to public that is paying $45,000 to $78,000. Now, if you're a teacher who just got done with college and you have a 4-year degree and $80,000 in student loans, why would I pick a system that will pay me $12,000 more than the poverty line when I can go somewhere that will pay me more and there's more room to grow? Hence why so many people do choose the public schools. And to address this, you know what private schools would have to do? They would have to raise teacher salaries. And by doing so, they raise tuition costs, which would most likely price out the middle class and lower income households. And again, we would be creating a bigger disparity. And that's where I believe would happen, is middle class and low income families would be forced back to the public sector, where the funds are already drained because all the rich people have taken out their funds and put it into their kids to go to a better school than ours. Don't get me wrong. There are many problems with public schools, but our leaders saw it as a way to create equality amongst everyone, giving everyone a baseline of reading, math, and science skills. And this analogy, I think, works out perfectly for the public school system. If you have 2 people carrying a log and one person is not carrying their weight, that log will eventually fall. And that is what's happening right now to our public schools. From decades of neglect, we need everyone who's deciding what happens to our public schools 100% invested in bringing those schools back to where it was and even better, or we will continually drop the log over and over again. Thank you.